The New Tech Times, a video magazine for the electronic age. In this edition, disc jockeys go live via satellite, and AM radio plays the hits in stereo. Also, Peter Brandt, broker and fisherman, trades commodities from the North Woods. Later, visit a used computer store and explore the world in your mind with 3D computer animation. All this and more in this edition of the New Tech Times.
The New Tech Times is brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry. CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, Electronic Industries Association.
Hello, I'm Mort Krim. Welcome to another edition of the New Tech Times. Our program this week should be fun, from reminiscing about the early days of television with Tim Onosko to the imaginative world of 3D computer animation. It's an exciting look at some of the advancements technology's made over the past few years. We begin by exploring where radio technology is taking us in the 80s. It's come a long way since my career began with WLS radio in Chicago. Back then, clear channel AM signals were king. Today, tens of thousands of radio stations are broadcasting coast to coast. They're using satellite, specialized formats, and they can bring you the news in AM, FM, FM stereo, or in some cases, even AM stereo. Here's Gary Probst's report.
It was the golden age of radio. A new technology captured the imagination of America, but radio lacked the technical sophistication to generate a high-fidelity sound. The radio itself was anything but portable, yet it was a remarkable device 40 years before the age of microelectronics. Today, a radio fits into the palm of your hand, and what you hear has been touched by high tech. WMAD. People in the small city of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin have noticed something new from their rock radio station. Most of the local announcers have been taken off the air. WMAD subscribes to a national programming service called Transtar. Radio shows are sent to Wisconsin via satellite from Colorado Springs. Transtar's disc jockeys are on the air across the country. It's a way for small stations to reduce the size of the payroll and to share the cost of having a big city sound.
I can offer an alternative style, I think a better type of radio, so that maybe someone who's coming up in broadcasting will listen to me and try to compete with me and try a little bit harder.
National radio shows may improve the quality of the broadcast for stations, but it also removes some of the local flavor. The station manager at WMAD says that doesn't matter.
A few people care, but not very many. And in fact, we've had some people tell us that they really enjoy being part of something that's national.
Doobie's up just before that with What a Fool Believes, Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, and She's Got Away. This one from Billy Joel. I'm Mark Cardinella. Call it 19 past the hour now.
We've had a very good response. Many people compliment us on the variety of music we're playing now.
McMahon believes that satellite music networks will even replace local announcers in the major metropolitan markets. One person who disagrees is Chicago disc jockey Jeff Davis.
You have to have a certain local flavor to properly service these people. The guy who's in New York City doing a 4-hour radio show is not going to be able to relate to people in Dubuque, Iowa or some other town, I don't think.
1 to 2 inches of snow, they say. Windy and cold. Temps should be holding pretty normal around 38 degrees. Then tonight, snow mixed with rain at times and colder with a low down around freezing at 32. Right now, it's 33. WLS AM 89.
New technology is allowing another major change which could help rebuild the dwindling audiences of AM radio. Stations like WLS are going stereo. The reason is to compete with FM, which lured away much of AM's audience in the 1970s. If people prefer stereo on AM, they may be switching back.
If the quality of sound is there, then it is going to be a problem for FM. They might have to rethink some of their programming and come up with some new hooks to attract listeners, because people will drift to the AM stereo. But if you don't get that quality of sound, I think it may end up just being a gimmick.
AM stereo may be nothing more than a gimmick for most listeners because they can't hear it. Manufacturers are just starting to build AM stereo receivers. There are very few on the market. Will AM stereo sound better? It's hard to judge.
25 after 2 at Atlanta's Best Country, where the better songs just keep on playing. Upcoming, we've got Ronnie McDowell. He's going to bring his love to you personally. Loretta Lynn is going to lie a little bit, and we'll start things off with Joe Stampley and a beautiful brown-eyed girl.
Another AM stereo station is WPLO in Atlanta. The man in charge of the station's technology claims the signal has been improved.
It will make the overall quality of the sound so much better, and in an area where you have equal signal strength between, say, an FM and an AM station in the major coverage areas, the two will be so close as far as quality that unless one looked at the radio tuning, they wouldn't know the difference.
Tell that to radio consultant Lee Abrams.
I can't believe that. Now you'll hear static in both channels when you go under a bridge. I've never understood. I can't see that happening. It's a lot of people, especially these radio conventions. This is going to save it all. It's AM stereo.
Whether it be AM stereo, programming via satellite, or any other type of high-tech innovation, people in radio will continue to change with new technology. It's one way to improve their product, to compete in the crowded airwaves, and to find a home on your radio dial.
That's how I remember the music from the 60s on WLS, but I wonder whatever happened to Dick Biondi. You know, the experts are right. AM stereo systems won't be able to improve your listening capability when you drive through areas blocking the signal. Stereo technology may, however, breathe new life into ailing AM stations. Satellites also are having a positive impact on broadcasting, but radio dish technology is helping folks do more than just broadcast news, weather, and music. Peter Brandt has an unusual use for a radio satellite system in northern Minnesota. Here's our report, produced by Brent Johnson.
Peter Brandt is a torn man, torn between his livelihood as a commodities trader and his love for fishing. But the worlds of the trading floor and the fishing boat are not so far apart. Thanks to the satellite dish on his roof and a computer hookup to the markets around the world, Peter can now do both.
I knew I wanted to be out of the city. I don't like cities.
After 13 years in Chicago, Peter had finally had enough. And a year and a half ago, Peter, his wife, and 2 kids headed for Gull Lake, one of Peter's favorite fishing spots in northern Minnesota.
I had a feeling at some point that it would be possible to move away from the city and trade commodities, and I think there were 2 things that I needed. First was the technology that enabled me to move away from the exchanges and being able to stay in touch with the markets as they were taking place. And of course, that took place with the advent of satellite transmission of commodity prices. And the second thing was just the push to do it. And I think that took place when I came up to this lake in August of 1982. And while I was up here basically talking with Chicago on the phone 2 or 3 times a day, I had the best week I've ever had in the markets.
Sell 3 September Swiss.
Peter has had his ups and downs in the market since then, so has the market. But Peter has had more ups than downs. He's done quite well for himself, and he has no regrets about the move, particularly in the morning.
I don't have the commute that I had in Chicago, for one thing, and that certainly makes life a lot easier. So I'll roll out of bed 6:30, 7 o'clock, and the first thing I do then is go into the office and start making some calls. Usually make a call to New York, to Chicago, and periodically may make a call to London.
How are you?
And from that point, waiting for the personnel in Chicago to be in place, and I start entering the orders that I want for the day.
And I got to stick an order in here if you don't.
So it's a matter of watching the markets during the day, watching them progress, and as they close, then updating my statistics on the market, and then usually in the afternoon, what I do is sit down and try to take a hard study of the markets and see if there's any reason for me to change my basic opinions, and it's usually then in the afternoon where I plan the strategy for the next day.
That's a day in the life of Peter Brandt when the fish aren't biting. But when we went to see Peter in May, it was a whole different story.
It's a priority between the middle of May and the end of June because that's when the fish bite. So the fish are only biting 6 weeks out of the year. So in that 6 weeks, it has to be a priority.
And how does that affect the way you conduct your business?
Well, it affects the way I trade. I'm not about to take any major commitment in the markets during that 6 week period of time. I'll stay pretty flexible. I'll do a lot more quick trading. Whereas during the other time of the year, I'll be more inclined to stay with a position and ride a position through an entire move, where during that 6 weeks, I'm more inclined to take the profits when I get them.
Now, is that because you don't want to spend too much time away from fishing?
Well, it's because my emotional commitment's to fishing.
Between fishing and trading his account, Peter writes a newsletter 22 times a year with fewer editions during fishing season. And he has a recorded message for subscribers on what to look for and how to position yourself in the market.
Hello, this is the Factor Hotline number 41 for Tuesday, May 27th.
None of Peter's work would be possible without a computer hookup to the markets. Peter gets the same information every other trader gets with the same 2-second delay from the time a trade is made and when it shows up on his screen. The data can then be entered into his computer where he can chart trends and figure out probabilities.
I don't know anything about a computer. I am a computer idiot. But there are people out there that can put software together, and I can learn which key to press. 2 years ago, I wasn't using a computer in any fashion. I see the day coming a year from now, 2 years from now, when I can get very, very sophisticated on a computer, and that's the direction I'm going.
Peter plans to expand his computerized system of analyzing the markets and trading commodities, but needs software on probabilities that hasn't been developed yet. Peter knows enough about computers to know he'll have to find someone to do it for him. But that will have to wait. The fish are biting for another 3 weeks. If you have story ideas, suggestions, or comments about the New Tech Times, get in touch with us electronically through The Source. Log on with Public 125 Direct. On CompuServe, use GoNTT. Or contact us directly through the New Tech Times electronic bulletin board by dialing 608-263-2784.
Peter's life at the lake is every bit as busy as it was in Chicago. But thanks to technology, he's able to live and work without the hassles of the big city. I wonder if one could broadcast the New Tech Times from the shores of Gull Lake. Well, in any event, Peter's story shows us that new technology can be used in interesting and inventive ways. One disadvantage of new technology is that it can make present technology old before its time. So what do you do with that old technology? If you live in Boulder, Colorado, and the technology is a computer, then you take it to microseconds for resale. Here's Tom Tomaszewski's report.
You can turn a key or pound the keyboard, kick a tire, or boot a disc. The principle is the same whether you're making a purchase at Maxwell Motors or marching down the aisles at Microseconds. Both places sell used technology.
People who expect to go out and buy a used car want to see it work. They want to take it around the block, kick the tires. The same with used computers. They want to see it work.
Most of the reason for coming in is because it brings used equipment, just to see what the latest items are that someone is discarding or wants to sell. I'm always interested in seeing what computer equipment's available of the higher grade equipment and in the used to get a better price.
The rapid explosion in computer power makes even yesterday's technology attractively current. Microseconds carries machines for business and pleasure. Radio Shack's color computer is yours here, used, for $160. The Atari 400 system, yours here, used, for $65. A used digital VT100 business terminal, yours here for $950.
A normal turnaround time for a relatively good piece of equipment like IBM PCs could be as little as an hour. For an average piece of equipment, it can be from a week to a month.
I wouldn't advise a new person starting to come in unless they were to buy a complete system that they knew what they were buying beforehand.
Yeah, well, I've got the MX80 printer, which does that for me. Okay. APL character set or any character set I need, so I've got that flexibility.
You need to have the knowledge of electronics and the knowledge of computer operation to do that. But if you have this complete system and you know what you're looking for, it's a good place to get a buy.
Like hi-fi and cameras used to be. It's a bottomless pit. In what way? As far as spending money.
Microseconds noon browsers are executives and engineers from local high-tech companies. The salespeople try to match the wants of their customers.
Also, we won't get sprung or something, we got it.
With the lists of machines gathering dust on the shelves of the store or in the back rooms of offices, every piece of machinery has to come complete with the original bill of sale. Microseconds is compiling a list of stolen equipment, just in case.
Look at that. That's it. It's great. Works.
Each piece of machinery has to go through a rigorous tech check before it's sold. That's giving Microseconds a backlog of information concerning common, used computer ailments and cures.
Most of the problems associated with the computers are going to be mechanical problems anymore. The disk drives you'll want to look at really closely, check them out for weird noises. You can also check the keyboard. It's all going to be the switches in there, and they get jammed, they get dust in them, and that's really what you have to look for.
During relatively rough economical times, wouldn't it be more economical to expand the system that you already have rather than, since there are no trade-ins, just putting it on a back shelf and buying a new piece of equipment?
You trying to sell me a system there, or is that part of the spiel you use to talk to people?
That's part of the selling technique.
If anyone knows the advantages of buying used, Gordon Maxwell does. He'd sooner make an offer, though, on a 52 Packard than a Hewlett-Packard. A certain amount of fear stands between him and his first computer purchase.
Well, everybody knows how to drive a car, or practically everybody, so, you know, it's a matter of getting in. Maybe a few things are a little different, but you can teach them how to do a few little things that are different and go from there.
But punch the wrong button on a computer and...
You may wipe out everything you've got in there. The eraser mode, you know.
Test drive a classy number, or crunch numbers for your business or class. The principle, it seems, is the same. There are deals to be had. But rather than saying, let the buyer beware, the better buyer had better be informed.
Used computer outlets are beginning to show up elsewhere in the American marketplace. Now, if you're knowledgeable about what you want, such stores might be just the right place to find it. But be sure to check on warranties and on repair and replacement policies before taking your bargain home. When emerging technology makes existing technology obsolete, what benefits does it bring with it? Well, for graphic artists, new technology's letting imaginations literally run wild. Here's producer Dale Neitzel's report.
Computer animation. You've seen it in television commercials and even at the movie theater. It moves, it's bright, and it sells. But what makes computer animation different from the rest?
The computers are our tool, just as a normal artist uses airbrushes or crayons or pencils or whatever. The computer is our artist's tool to create an image.
We can go where the eye can't go. We can go where the mind wants to, but physically can't have access to.
We can go inside your mind. We can go inside your eye. We can go inside your veins and your heart. Anywhere you want to go. That physically we can't go using all the traditional tools that we have.
You don't have to learn anymore how to, spend years learning how to airbrush, or years learning how to use a paintbrush or an X-Acto knife or other artist tools. The craft part that link has been removed. It's now from the mind to the TV screen.
Nancy St. John and Paul Hughes are producers at Vertigo Computer Imagery in Vancouver, British Columbia. They connect clients' dreams and the world of designers to create fantasy from ideas.
Like, for example, the piece that we have of going through a city. Okay, there is no existing city that looks like that. We just created it. We've finally grown up a bit now. We've gone through everybody using computer imagery just to do flash and dash stuff. Now we're getting into serious applications, and people are starting to say, the day that 3D computer animation will make itself really known to the world is when you can create three-dimensional humans that look like humans.
And move like humans. That's the
everything the way it should.
Perhaps the biggest thing right now in computer animation is the simulation of human movement. The body movements are extremely complex, and there's a lot of research being done on that area.
As the marketplace puts new demands on this emerging art form, it's spinning and turning with its own internal problems, not the least of which is the name. Computer, 3D, animation, that's not always easily explained.
Every word already has a connotation, a traditional sound that goes with it. If we say three-dimensional computer animation, they click on animation because that's something they're familiar with. So they somehow try to figure out how three-dimensionally we draw. Or if we say computer, then they think we spit out little slides, computer graphics slides. If we say 3D, they think we mean glasses that are, you know, the 3D glasses.
We're looking for a word, by the way. If anybody has a word, we've tried all the acronyms and none of them seem to work. Some of them are even sort of vulgar. We're looking for a word that describes what we do. A new noun for the English language, we'll get it in the Webster Dictionary.
Today's 3D animation products are a quantum leap from those of early animators like Walt Disney. The animation field, like the television industry, has grown rapidly with developing technologies. Looking back to the good old days of television reminds us of how far we've come in just a few decades. This week, Tim Onosco journeys back.
Here's one of the newest, smallest color television sets to date, Epson's ELF. It and Seiko's new TFT Pocket Color TV, like many other things here at the 1984 Summer CES, represent technology's cutting edge. But if this is the future, here's technology's past, represented in a history of television exhibit, more accurately, a history of TV sets, a look back at the birth of the medium. Ancient history to some, but to others like myself, a reminder of the day when TV was something magical. Some of these, like this 1950 Sentinel, were radios with pictures that received only a few stations on the air. There were no rules of design, so TVs came in all sizes. For the small screens, there were exotic oil-filled magnifying lenses. Here's a projection TV. The tube points straight up, reflected off a mirror. Almost all these sets were expensive luxuries. Some sold for $1,000 in a time when you could buy a new car for a little more. Then along came a man named Earl Madman Muntz, a California used car salesman with the dream of putting a TV set in every living room for only a fraction of that price. He helped turn TV into a mass medium. Suddenly, every kid went to ding-dong school. The local newspaper was delivered by John Cameron Swayze, the Sunday edition by Edward R. Murrow. The drama of the New York stage fit into 21 inches. For laughs, there were Milton Berle, Red Skelton, and Who Didn't Love Lucy? And we shouldn't forget that it was Ernie Kovacs who showed us what TV could be. Walking around in this room, it's kind of fun to imagine the day when each of these sets came to life in a living room somewhere. And to think about the people who spent so many, many hours looking at these screens. Before long, each became a victim of obsolescence, giving way to bigger screens or better cabinetry. Then came color, or attempts at it like this experiment. Unlike anything you can buy today, it got its color from a mechanical scanning device that spun in front of the picture tube. It was clearly not the answer. No one wants to watch a black and white TV today, but I think I'd still spend time in front of this Philco Predicta. I fell in love with it the day I saw an ad for it in Life magazine in 1959. A bold design, its electronics were housed in the base, while the picture tube swiveled precariously on a pedestal above. There's never been another one like it. The Predicta represented the future. They call TV a disposable medium. If it weren't for a handful of collectors, no one would ever see these old sets, and few would remember the purpose they served. Except for an occasional exhibition like this one, the few that remain would stay in a closet or attic. These will go back to their loving owners, safe from the scrap heap that most were committed to. The programs we watch on these sets aren't nearly as lucky. Few are still around, but many, if not most of them, will never be seen or heard from again. Some of the machines did survive, but their souls, the ideas and the laughter, are all but gone. From Chicago, this is Tim Onosco.
Tim's right. Those early years were an exciting time for the television industry. But today's programs don't always match the appeal of some of those wonderful programs of our past. Let's see, I guess my favorite show was Martin Caine, Private Eye. Remember that one? Technology's making the 80s a volatile and an interesting time in which to live, from the golden days of television to the stereo sounds of radio, and visually exciting 3D graphics in between. We've learned a lot about the new tech times this week. We'll be back next week with some more fascinating reports about the consumer electronics age. For the New Tech Times staff, I'm Mort Krim. Thanks for watching.
The New Tech Times has been brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry, the CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, the Electronic Industries Association.
To communicate electronically with the New Tech Times on CompuServe, use Go and TT. Through the source, log on with Public 125 Direct, or contact us directly through the New Tech Times electronic bulletin board by dialing 608-263-2784.